Bend the knee! Valamogolas, everybody. This is Don Willie, back again with another video. And this time I'm going to be asking the question for Game of Thrones Season 6 and beyond. Will it happen in the books? So for Season 6 of Game of Thrones, we are in what is basically uncharted territory for the most part. I mean, they're circling back around to certain stories from A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, but for the most part, we are absolutely going off book. But before we jump into Season 6 directly, we actually have to go back a little bit to the end of Season 5, the last couple of episodes. So, first thing we have to do is we have to ask the question, will Brienne kill Stannis Baratheon? Now, there's been some contention, even though the show has said that Stannis is dead, there are some people out there who are off their meds who still believe that Stannis is alive. I've been saying for the longest that Stannis is dead because after they basically assassinated his entire character in the last couple episodes from last season, there's not really much more you can do with him that would make him useful to the TV show at this point. But if you ask me, will she actually kill him in the books? I would have to say no. And I say that because, while that was a thing that, she wanted to do, I mean, it was more so about she wanted to prove that it was Stannis that killed Renly, not so much that she wanted to actually kill Stannis in the books. It was more like, hey, you know what, I need to vindicate myself because people think that I've done this horrible thing, and that's not who I am. So for that one, I'm gonna say no. Just because she isn't vengeance bound in the books, at least from that angle. Now, another one that is a big contention is the burning of Shireen Baratheon. Now, we saw in episode 9, The Dance of the Dragons, that Stannis supposedly got so desperate after his food supplies and some of his siege weapons were destroyed by Ramsay's 20 good men, that he decided to take Melisandre's advice and burn his daughter in hopes that he would win the Battle of Winterfell. And we saw that, was a disaster for him. Well, he lost most of the army before he even got to the battle. Like half of them deserted and was like, all right, well, if I'm really supposed to be the champion, then fine. I'm just going to say, fuck it. I'm going to go and do this thing anyway. And that was absolutely, a bullheaded decision. And just, again, this was the show kind of assassinating Stannis' character. Any of you who have watched my channel for a significant amount of time know that I was never really a big Stannis fan to begin with. So, I mean, like, it didn't really affect me too bad with him losing, but it was just kind of like, damn. Yeah, I thought that was kind of foul. But let's, get back to the original question. So, personally, I don't think that he's actually going to burn Shireen. In the books, spoilers for any of you guys out there who have not read the books, but yeah, you probably already, should know about this by now. Anyway, so in the books, Stannis goes, on the march to Winterfell. He's going to collect troops to go take back Winterfell from the Bolton forces. And he has left Shireen, Selyse, and Melisandre back at the wall. Now, I think the big difference from the show to the books is that the catalyst for the burning of Shireen will be the pink letter, also known as the bastard letter. It's the letter that Jon receives right before the Night's Watch goes haywire and decides to stab him to death. And in this letter, it states that Stannis is killed by the Boltons, and all this other stuff in there. It's not really relative to what I'm talking about right now. But I do think that at some point Melisandre is going to read that letter, and also Selyse is going to read that letter, and one of them is going to say, "Hey, well, you know what? We need to burn Shireen." Now, it could be Selyse who goes to Melisandre and says, "Hey, you know what? Fuck it, burn Shireen because we need to bring back Stannis. He's the Lord of Light's chosen." Or it could be Melisandre who says to Selyse, "Hey, see, we need to use your daughter because she's got king's blood, and that's how we bring back Stannis because Stannis is Azor Ahai." And I think that not only will it not work in terms of bringing back Stannis, because I don't think Stannis will actually be dead at that point. I think ultimately that's how we will get back Jon. All right, so yeah, with that out of the way for season 5, let's jump into season 6. Now, season 6, episode 1 was kind of a conundrum because there were many things that I happen to be unhappy with as far as the story, the direction that they've taken the story for certain characters. Now, one of the biggest things that not only myself but many people were unhappy with was the treatment of Dorne. And for the books, it's a totally different storyline. They've cut out a few characters, so it fundamentally changes the outcome of many things, and it is kind of frustrating to think about. But if you're going to jump into this question and answer it effectively, you have to look at all angles and see like what would be the purpose, and also is it something that we can see George doing in the books. So basically what you had from season 5 that goes over into season 6 is the death of Myrcella Baratheon. So will she die basically on her way back to King's Landing from poisoning? I'm going to say no. Now, in the books, she is attacked by supposedly a gentleman named Gerald Dane, also known as Darkstar, and she is grievously injured. Now, some people speculate that it's not the real Myrcella Baratheon, which could be true, could not, who knows? But that's neither here nor there. The point is, will she die? No, she will not die in the books in that particular manner, because in the books, Doran Martell's daughter Arianne is actually attempting to make Myrcella queen of the Seven Kingdoms. So, the whole thing with Ellaria Sand and the Sand Snakes attempting to kill Myrcella, I don't think that's going to go down like that in the books at all, especially because Ellaria Sand really, after the death of Oberyn, she's like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want any more of this. I'm not trying to go to war. Uh, yeah, this is just way too fucking horrible. I'm taking my kids and I'm going somewhere, and I'm not dealing with any of this crazy shit anymore. Right? So there's that. Now, the killing of Doran Martell, Areo Hotah, and Trystane Martell. I do not believe that will take place in the books, because you have Doran Martell, who has a much better grip on power and in the family, just in terms of him being able to keep things under control. I mean, when Arianne tried to go and hatch her plot to crown Myrcella queen, he already had an informant on the inside, and he was able to foil that plan, very swiftly and handily. And as far as Areo Hotah, I mean, Areo Hotah in the books, is a much different character. We get actually some stuff from his perspective. It's just like he's a guy who is a more than a capable fighter. He's known to be very tough. And the show has just taken him and just tossed all that aside. And yeah, I can't see him just randomly getting stabbed in the back one time and then it's over for him. So I'm gonna say no to those two dying in the manner that they did. Now Tristane could be a different story. I do not think that the sand snakes necessarily will kill him, but you could have a situation where war does come to Dorne, and him wanting to prove himself and also get some type of revenge for what happened to Marcella. He could wind up dying in battle just off of his ego and pride, and it's like, hey, you hurt my girl. This is the woman I was supposed to marry and rule Dorne with. So it could be that. We'll see what happens in terms of how that goes down. But for that one, I'm gonna say maybe that one happens. So moving right along. So in the show, we have Daario Naharis and Jorah Mormont currently looking for Daenerys Targaryen. So this is something for me that will absolutely not happen in the books at all, because for one, Jorah Mormont is with Tyrion Lannister, currently with the Second Son, is parked outside of Meereen, getting ready for this big battle. And, yes, they know that Daenerys is not there right now, but they got way too much on their plate to even try doing that. And Daario Naharis currently is a hostage outside of Meereen. And yeah, so that whole thing about them going to look for her and finding the ring, not gonna happen at all. And as far as Tyrion, being I guess the de facto ruler of the city while Daenerys is away, in the books, we have Barristan Selmy still, who that's another travesty that they killed off his character for the show. In the books, the role that is being filled by Tyrion is currently being filled by Barristan Selmy, and maybe not such to great effect as people would believe Tyrion should be doing or would do, but Barristan is holding it together the best he can. But the whole thing with Tyrion being the de facto ruler and running things until Daenerys gets back, I'm going to have to say no, that will not happen in the books whatsoever. So another thing, we have the whole battle with the Night's Watch and also Davos Seaworth. So, look, for one, I don't think Davos is going back to the wall anytime soon in the books. I mean, currently he is going to Skagos to look for Rickon, and we still have not seen how that is going to play out yet. And then also, even with the whole thing with the Night's Watch, you got Ed, who's going to get the wildlings and bring them back, and hopefully, be able to battle against the forces at Castle Black to protect Jon's body and also his legacy to a certain extent. I do not believe that this will happen in the books. I mean, for one, when they get the pink letter at Castle Black and Jon is talking about he is going to go personally fight Ramsay Bolton, um, the big thing about that is there actually are wildlings there. Wildlings have been integrated into the Watch, and they just had a wedding between the leader of the Thins and Alice Karstark. You have the Queen's men along with Melisandre and Selyse and Shireen. They're all there, and then somebody blows a horn, and one starts going crazy and is killing Sir Patrick of 9 Stars. So I do believe that there will be a battle between the wildlings or at least people who are loyal to Jon Snow versus those who are not loyal to Jon Snow. and it's going to be different, in many ways. For one, currently in the books, Alistair Thorne is not at the wall, and it could possibly have been foreshadowed already that Alistair Thorne will come back as a white because he was pissed off that John sent him ranging. Like they already know winter is coming. Winter is fast approaching, and basically, Alistair Thorne told him, "Look, I will be back at Castle Black one way or another." And so we already know what the one way or another is, and it could, definitely be a foreshadow of Alistair Thorne coming back as white and John having to face him in that manner. Now with Dolorous Ed, Ed currently is commanding at either Eastwatch by the Sea or the Shadow Tower. I forget which one he's sent to. So obviously he's not going to get the wildlings. And like I said, the wildlings are already somewhat at Castle Black, and it's not the healthiest of relationships, but it's not super antagonistic either, But so that one is kind of like a 50-50. The circumstances are way different. But as far as battle between wildlings or, forces who are loyal to John and forces who are against John, I'm gonna go with yeah. I mean, it's already kind of happened to a certain extent, but you know what? I think that it will escalate into an all-out brawl at Castle Black in the book. So for this one, I'm gonna say the show is going in the right direction with certain aspects of that particular part of the story. So moving right along to Arya. So Arya is still training in the show and in the books. She has already kind of went through her blind phase, and the Winds of Winter preview chapter that we got. She is no longer blind. She's putting on the Mummer show, and I don't think we're actually going to get that part in the show. We're going to get something, vastly trimmed down that's going to skip a lot of that, where she's at odds with the Faceless Men. So, I mean, this one you can't really call because it is so different with what the show is leading into that you can't really kind of compare the two. It's going to be 100% contrast. So, I'm going to take this one off the table just because things are so vastly different from where they have left them, so it is what it is with that one. So will Brienne save Sansa in the books? No, because in the books, Sansa is currently with Peter Baelish in the Vale, so she does not need rescuing. And honestly speaking, Brienne wouldn't know to go looking to rescue her anyway. I mean, not only would she not know where to look, but I mean, she has other things in mind right now, so she's not. Yeah, like the last that we see of Brienne, she's worried about saving herself and Podrick. At this point, she's kind of given up the search for Sansa because it's like Sansa, as far as everyone knows, is basically in the wind, and cannot be found. Her and Podrick do not run into Sansa on the road. And she's like, "Oh yeah, pledge my service, my honor, my life, and please, I told your mother Catelyn I would do this for you." So yeah, that's not gonna happen in books whatsoever. It's totally that's another one that's kind of like the Arya thing, where because they've diverged so much, it's just not gonna go down like that. So another question we have to ask is, will we see Melisandre's true form? And with Melisandre, it's a little difficult because we do know that she is glamoring herself because Bloodraven or Bran or a combination of both have removed that glamour, and whether or not we will actually see what she looks like, totally different story. We do know that she is a couple of centuries old. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not someone actually sees her true form. You guys let me know what you think about that one, because I'm still not sure whether or not we are going to see her actual true form in the way that she is portrayed in the show. Oh, so another question. All right, when Marcella dies, will Cersei be, the super contrite, self-reflective person? And I'm gonna have to say no, because as we've seen in the books, I mean, especially in the Feast of Crows, the anytime something bad happens, she is just going off the rails. She wants to burn everything down to the ground. So, no, I don't think there will be that self reflection after she dies. I don't think she will tell anyone about the Maggie the Frog prophecy. And I just, I do not see her uh, being that rational whatsoever in any form or fashion. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, for that one, I'm going to say no, no, not at all. Cersei will not react in the same manner, and Jamie will not be sitting up there like, oh yeah, it's me and you against the world, because right now in the books they are on the outs. Now, another question, from the show. Now, it looks like Marjorie could possibly be joining the faith, like for real, or at least, feigning, I don't know, feigning piety or feigning contrition in order to get released by the faith. I mean, this one is a little difficult because in the show, Tommen is older, so it's expected that she is sleeping with Tommen. In the books, Tommen is only like 8, maybe, somewhere between 8 and 10. So there's no way that she is having sex with Tommen, but she's been asking for Moon Tea. Now, some people have been speculating she's been asking for that for one of her ladies in waiting, but we have absolutely no idea. But point is, the circumstances again are different, and they are so different that I'm going to have to take this particular question off of the table. So another good question to ask is, will we see Red Priest in Meereen, or a Red Priestess in Meereen preaching for Dany? Um, Now for this one, I don't know. I mean, look, Makuro and Victorian Greyjoy are on their way to Meereen currently, and we don't know anything about any other Red Priests or priestesses who have decided to make their way to Meereen. But it does seem as though Makoro, at least, is going to go to Meereen and try to convince Daenerys to come back to Westeros or join the Lord of Light religion, or something like that. So yeah, I'm gonna say that we are gonna see a Red Priest or Priestess in Meereen. Next up, will Daenerys be taking the Vise Dothrak? I've been calling it Vase Dothrak for all this time, but apparently, I don't know, maybe I've been getting it wrong. Look, George said you can pronounce it however you want, but I'm trying to be, as phonetically accurate as possible here. So Vazdorvac, Vazdorvac, whatever. Anyway, will Daenerys go there? Will she be forced to submit to the Dosh Khaleen, etc., etc.? And I will say no. I do believe she will go there, but not as some sort of prisoner. I mean, at the end of A Dance with Dragons, we see her with Drogon. Drogon is right next to her now. Unless Drogon is just kind of like, hey, yeah, nah, listen, I'm eating these horses, go about your business and take mom with you. I don't see that happening. I mean, Drogon is Daenerys's dragon. That is her dragon. The other two are kind of like, well, they're her dragons, but Drogon is the one. That is the son that she never had, kind of thing. I don't see Drogon letting the Dothraki take Daenerys away, but I mean, who knows? That dragon seems a little fickle, so I mean, it could be, but somehow I doubt it. Next up, the question I wanted to ask is: will Roose Bolton threaten Ramsay with disinheritance for the loss of this fake Arya Stark? You know what? It is very difficult to it is very difficult to answer that question because Roose actually seems to have an affinity for Ramsay, and to a certain extent, the way that you could read into some of the statements about Ramsay and that Roose has made, and about the Walder being pregnant, is that it almost seems as though Roose might be happy if Ramsay killed Walder and and the unborn baby to a certain extent. The way that it kind of leaps off the page or whatever, it kind of seems as though Roose is like, hey, well, you know what? Look, you're the fittest one. If you can kill her and the kid to be the only heir, then so be it. It is what it is. I'm not gonna really be super pissed at you about that. So I mean, I don't know. I don't see him actually threatening Ramsay with disinheritance over losing the fake Arya. So I'm gonna say no for that one. That he is not going to talk that kind of greasy talk to him. And last but not least, final question for season 6, episode 1, will it happen in the books? Is will we see Varys in Meereen? And 100% I'm going to say no, no, no. Varys has way too much stuff that he is doing in Westeros, and also, they still got Illyrio, and things have happened so differently that it's like, no, there's no way that Varys goes to Meereen and is, hanging out with Tyrion or doing anything out there. No, he's in Westeros doing his thing right now, so let that man live, and do what he needs to do in order to prepare for Aegon, Fagon, whatever you like to call him. But anyway, yeah, you guys let me know what you think. Is there anything that I might have missed or anything that you happen to disagree with me on as far as what will happen in the books based off of what we've seen in the show thus far? And I'm going to do one of these for each and every single episode going forward. So, season 6, season 7, and season 8. So for the Winds of Winter and also A Dream of Spring, just seeing will it happen in the books. All right. So you already know what the deal is. Rate, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, come back for more. That's been my time, and this is Don Willie saying, Vala de Harris.